For today we are going to focus on hip flexor and inner thigh mobility and opening. For today you can grab a set of blocks if you have those available. You can also grab a yoga blanket or a towel if you find that that's helpful for you throughout your classes, or if you have sensitive knees, that could be a good thing to have nearby to provide a little extra cushion for some of today's poses. So whenever you are ready and have what you need, go ahead and meet me on the mat. So for today, we're going to get started in a nice and wide child's pose. So you can bring your knees to the edge of the mat or even beyond if that's comfortable for you. Big toes are going to come to touch, and then we're going to start to walk the fingertips towards the top of the mat, allowing the chest to slowly make its way towards the earth, and the forehead comes to rest. Settle into your breath, settle into your hips. This wider pose, wider base here, we'll get right into the inner thighs right away. So if it's too much for you getting started, you can bring the knees a little bit closer together, or at least on your mat. But if this opening feels nice for you to get started for today's class, go ahead and allow your body to settle in. Staying active in the arms, maybe a gentle press through the hands, bringing the sit bones closer to the heels. And breathing into those more limited spaces in the hips. Slowing the breath, calming the body here. From this position, we're going to roll up on into high Cobra. Take a few rounds there to open the hips, open the front side of the hips. So if you're comfortable getting started from this wider position, please feel free. If you'd like to adjust your knees, adjust your base, take a moment to do so. And on your next breath, you're going to start to pull through the fingertips, through the palm of the hands. Maybe tuck the toes to press yourself forward. Hips drop low, chest pulls through. Finish with an inhale. Exhale, pressing the hips back towards the heels, untucking the toes, sitting the hips back behind you. Exhale. Inhale, pull the body through, rounding the upper back. Again, staying mindful through the body, even if the hips are the focus today. Inhale, pull the chest through. You can keep a slight bend in the elbows, but stay strong in the arms. Exhale, sit the body back, sit the hips back. Allow the chest to fall low. Exhale. One more round. Inhale, pull the body through, rounding the upper back, then allowing the hips to fall down towards the earth as the chest rises tall. Exhale, sit back. From here, you can bring your knees out wide once more. Allow the elbows to fall to the mat. Forearms on the earth as well. Knees come wide once more. And you can stay here if that's comfortable for you. Or you can allow the ankles to come out. Bring the knees to that 90-degree angle, coming into frog pose. This is a good time to introduce a blanket if there's some sensitivity in the knees. There's too much pressure in the knees. In a way where there's bony contact to the earth. So if you need a little bit more cushion, please feel free to place that underneath you. And as always, if this position is too intense for you to get started or it's too much for your body, just click the big toes back towards one another and remain in a wide-legged child's pose. If you are in front, allow the hips to settle low, maybe shifting your weight forward and back. Kind of explore the mobility in your hips and see where your body is starting from today. Ankles should be just below the knees, toes pointing outwards. One more breath here. Deep inhale, filling the belly, breathing into those tighter points of the hip. And exhale, relax. On your next breath, you're gonna kick the right foot back behind you and just roll over that ankle, bringing the left leg to straight. So the sole of the right foot is against the left inner thigh. The left fingers are gonna reach for the sole of the left foot. And inhale, the right fingertips up and over towards the left, finding a side body stretch. And a gentle stretch of the inner thigh. Inhale, find length, pulling the chest forward towards the top of the mat. Exhale, reach the fingertips even longer. Inhale, reach up. And then exhale, hands come to the mat. Coming back into frog pose. So spin the left foot back behind you once more. Knee comes wide. And then kick the right foot out behind you as well. Returning to that frog pose. Another 2 more breaths. Re-entering frog, trying to settle in a little bit more, getting a little bit more comfortable, finding a little bit more ease. If you find that you're holding on to tension in too many places other than the hips, then go ahead and bring those toes together. Find a little bit more comfort, but still targeting those inner thighs, still finding that mobility. On your next breath, you're gonna click the right toes, the big toe underneath your sit bones, and roll over that ankle as the right leg extends long. Sole of the left foot comes to the right inner thigh. Reaching the right fingertips towards the sole of the right foot. Inhale, that left arm up and over. Keeping the chest proud towards the top of the mat, not folding in towards that right leg. Keeping that length and that height throughout the spine. Not only targets that side body stretch from the hip to the fingertips, but also targets a little bit of inner thigh of the right leg as well. Inhale, find length, find height. Exhale, reach a little bit further. Inhale, arms up towards center. Exhale, hands come to the mat. Spin the right foot behind you. The left foot comes out behind you as well. Forearms to the mat, frog pose. Just for 1 more breath. Big toes come back behind you. Press through the forearms as the knees come towards one another. Coming into tabletop for a brief moment. Once you're here, bring the left foot outside the left hand, coming into a lizard lunge. If you don't have blocks here, stay tall on the fingertips, pulling the chest through, pulling that right hip up and forward, staying tall within the spine, and letting the hips sink low here. If you have blocks, find a little bit more height for yourself. Again, whatever height feels good for you today, you may need the tallest height to get a little bit more mindfulness, more energy right into that right hip. If you're sinking super low, you might feel more sensations in both sides. So if you want to focus on the length in that the front side of that right hip, maybe standing tall might feel a little bit more comfortable. So if you have blocks with you, use that to your advantage. And gentle press of the left hip back in space as the right hip pulls forward a little bit more. Breathing into that space. Harnessing the energy in and around the hip. 1 more breath. Go ahead and remove the blocks from underneath your hands if you have them. And come out of that front left knee just a little bit, so to come into a tall kneeling position. Once you find that tall kneeling position here, go ahead and tilt the pelvis a little bit more, pulling the right hip forward, tucking the tailbone back behind you, finding a little bit more height, a little bit more length throughout the right side. Left hand on the left thigh. Inhale, reaching the right fingertips up and over towards the left. Get a little bit deeper. Right side body stretch, getting into that hip. Exhale, lower the right arm alongside your body. Kick your right heel in towards your glute. Catch hold of the outer edge of the ankle with your hand, pulling the heel a little bit more in towards your body if able. Another point where it could be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit too much pressure on the top of your knee. So you can try adding a blanket here for a little bit more cushion, a little bit more support. Or if you came a little bit further, committed a little bit more to that front knee, that might relieve some of that direct pressure on that knee there. But holding for one more breath. And then go ahead, gently let go, allowing the top of the right foot to come to the earth nice and slow. Recommitting to that left knee, sinking into the hips a little bit further. Reintroducing the blocks. And then if you have a little bit more space available, using those blocks, you can bring them on whatever height feels most appropriate for you and your body today. And then come down onto your forearms. Having the blocks with you here allows your body to meet the mat with a little bit more support. If you have that opening, have that space in your hips, you can drop the forearms all the way to the mat if that's accessible for you today. Being in this low lizard lunge, you might feel a greater sensation in the left hip than you did when you were more upright than the torso, and that is normal. Finding a little bit more space on both sides. Keeping the chest pulling forward, staying long within the spine, reaching the crown of the head into the space you can't see. Holding for 2 more breaths. Go ahead and remove one of the blocks from underneath your forearms, keeping one with you. The right hand is going to find that block. Pressing through the right hand, you're going to come onto the outer edges of both feet. Press through the back foot, lifting up into that twisted hip stretch. Sweep the left arm up and overhead. Exhale, cactusing the arm back behind you, driving the elbow in towards the space behind your left hip. Squeezing the shoulder blade in towards your spine. Exhale, come out of it. Spinning onto the back toes. Into that low lizard lunge once more for just a moment. And exhale, sit the hips back, coming to Ardha Hanuman, half splits pose. Hips going directly back behind you. Gentle press of the left hip back in space. Even out the hips. Inhale, find length through the spine. Exhale, settle in. Inhale, left foot plants. Right foot spins back behind you, so the right toes are facing the outer edge of the left side of the mat. Face your torso towards the right side of the mat as the left leg extends long. Left toes facing the right edge. Right fingertips come towards the earth. Left arm sweeps up and over, pressing the hips forward, opening the chest, coming into a gate pose. Adding in a side body stretch here. Inhale, press the hips a little bit forward, more so forward towards that edge of the mat as you open the chest even deeper. Exhale, come back to neutral. Inhale, press the hips forward, open up. Exhale, come back to that side body stretch. Inhale once more, press the hips forward, 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 opening the chest. Exhale, coming back to that side body stretch. And then sweep the hands back towards the front of the mat. Right foot spins back behind you, left foot comes to meet the right. And then we're gonna sit the hips low, coming into a child's pose for just a moment. Exhale, let the chest fall, forehead comes to the earth. Elbows and forearms drop to the mat. Lift the hips up for just a moment to spread your knees wide. Ankles come just below the knees, returning to frog pose. And again, feel free to shift the weight back and forth, exploring the space they may have created. How one side feels versus the other. One more breath here. Breathing into the space, into any tension you feel within the inner thigh. Big toes click back behind you. Press through the forearms as the knees come towards one another. Coming into tabletop once more for a brief moment. Right foot comes outside the right hand. And then allowing the hips to sink low, coming into that lizard lunge. If you have blocks, bring those back toward you. Underneath the hands, inside the right foot. Gentle press of the right hip back, left hip forward. Pulling that left hip up and towards the top of the mat. And feel free to adjust the blocks to whatever height feels good for you. Again, finding length all the way from the left thigh, through the left hip, all the way through the trunk of the body and through to the crown of the head. Breathing here. On your next breath, set the blocks aside. And coming into that tall kneeling position. So come out of that right knee just a little bit. Check in with the pelvis. Bringing the left hip forward. Tucking the tailbone underneath you. Finding a little bit more space within the front of that left hip. Right hand to right thigh. Inhale, left fingertips up and over towards the right. This isn't a deep side bend here. So keep the integrity of the pelvis, keep that starting position, and just reach from that point. Inhale, left arm comes to the left side. Kick the left heel in towards the glute, grab hold of the outer ankle with that left hand. Keeping that tall spine, keeping that hip, aiming forward, pulling forward. Deepening that the stretch within that thigh. For 3, 2, 1. Let go of your grip and allow the left foot to slowly make its way towards the earth. And then go ahead and settle into the hips once more, coming into that low lizard lunge. So we're gonna come a little bit lower, commit a little bit more to the hips here. Finding a little bit more depth, a little bit more space. Blocks come back. And then if it's accessible to you, on whatever height feels most appropriate for your body, try to come down onto your forearms, sinking a little bit lower. Finding a little bit more space, introducing new sensations to the body that may affect both the left and the right side in a way where that heightened torso, that more upright position you may not have felt it there. You might be feeling more here. Keeping that chest, those collarbones reaching towards the top of the mat, the crown of the head long. Breathing into those limitations, or those areas that may feel a little bit more closed off. We're trying to access just a little bit more mobility. Final breath in this pose. Go ahead and remove one block if you have those there. Left hand comes to the mat, comes to the earth, or comes to the block. Start to spin onto the outer edges of both feet. Press through the back foot as you lift the hips. Right arm sweeps up and over and cactus the arm. Driving the right elbow towards the space behind that right hip. Maybe sinking a little bit more into the hips, committing a little bit more to this stretch. Press through the feet to come out of it, tucking the left toes back behind you. And exhale, sit the hips back, coming to Ardha Hanuman. Half splits pose. Aiming the left sit bone towards the left heel, trying to hit the hips even in the space behind you. That can mean that the right knee is bent, and that's fine. Tailbone flicks back behind you. Spine stays long. Inhale, right foot comes to the mat. Spinning the left foot back behind you so the toes are facing the right edge of the mat. Facing the left, the body's facing the left edge of the mat as the right leg extends long. Toes are facing the left side, as is your chest and collarbone. And we're coming into that gate pose. Left fingertips come to the mat, right arm sweeps up and over, pressing the hips forward, engaging the glutes, reaching tall. Exhale, right fingertips reach towards the left of the back side of the mat, finding length from the side body. Inhale, press the hips forward, open the chest a little bit more. Exhale, come back to neutral. Inhale, open the chest, press the hips forward, really expanding the space within the front body. Exhale, reach the fingertips long. Inhale, open once more. Exhale, close it up. And then come back, walking the hands alongside the edge of the mat. Right foot comes behind, left foot spins back. Bring the knees wide, big toes to touch, sit back into a child's pose. Staying engaged in this child's pose, right fingertips are reaching towards the top of the mat. And feel free to stay here. If frog was too intense for you, you can stay in this pose, or you can come back into frog, allowing the elbows and the forearms to drop to the mat, knees come wide, ankles come below the knees. So just explore the space you created now that we've worked on both sides. Again, if you want to get this deeper hip stretch, but find that it's too uncomfortable for your knees on a harder surface, grab any kind of towel, blanket to help support the position. We'll be here for just a moment longer. If you re-entered frog pose, bring your big toes back to touch, press through the forearms to bring the knees towards one another, and then sit back into child's pose. From here, we're going to roll into high cobra for a few more rounds. Now your next breath, start to pull the body forward, pull, as you round the upper back. And then start to unravel as the hips sink low. Finding space within the belly, the front of the hips as the chest holds through to the top of the mat. And exhale, press the body back, press the hips back towards the heels. Sit low. And then once more, pulling the body through, rounding the upper back, rounding, until the hips fall and then begin to unravel the chest forward. Exhale, allow the hips to come to the earth, chest comes to the earth. Fingertips come to the outer edges of the mat. Tops of the feet are back behind you, legs are long. On your inhale, press through the fingertips, reach the chest up and forward, coming to oscillating cobra. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, rise. Unraveling the chest, pulling the chest through, engaging the back body. Exhale, lower. Once more, inhale, pulling the chest up, unraveling as the gaze lifts. Exhale, lower. Keeping the left fingertips to the earth. Bending the right knee, heel comes to the glute. Grabbing hold of the outer edge of the right ankle. Tuck the pelvis just a little bit so the hip bones are pressing into the earth. And then kick back into the hand here. Gaze lifts just beyond the front edge of the mat. Kicking into that hand, engaging the front side of that leg. For 3, 2, 1. Lower down. Release the right leg, allow it to come slowly to the mat. Right fingertips come to the earth. Left heel comes to left glute, grab hold of the left ankle. Again, press the hip bones into the mat. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, kick the left foot into the left hand. Really creating that energy, building that muscle engagement. Lifting the chest up from the mat, gaze is just beyond the front edge. For 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower down. Release the grip. Left fingertips return to the earth. Exhale. Inhale, reaching the chest up, coming to oscillate Cobra once more. Pulling the chest up and forward, engaging the entirety of the back body. Maybe a little bit of the glutes to lift the chest. Exhale, lower down. Now we're combining both sides together. So kick the right heel to the glute. Grab hold of the right ankle. Left heel, left glute. Grab hold of the ankle. Inhale to prepare. And exhale, kick the ankles in towards your grip, lifting the chest. Allowing the shoulders to open, shoulder blades come towards one another to meet at the spine. Engaging the glutes as you lift the thighs from the earth. And kicking into your grip for 3, for 2, and 1. Lower down with control, nice and slow. Lowering to the earth. Allow your hands to release from the ankles and the tops of the feet return to the mat. Sit back, child's pose. Just here for a moment, allow the low back to open up, find some space. And walk your hands back towards you to come up into a tall seat. Hips sit heels. You can come into the center of your mat. Just take a moment here. Settle into your space. And go ahead and press up onto your knees. So you're coming into a tall kneeling position. Bringing the hips forward, lifting the hips as you engage the glutes. Coming to a tall, upright position all the way through the base of the spine to the crown of the head. Gentle tuck of the tailbone. Hands start at heart center. We're going to come into circle camel. So we're moving from one side through the middle, coming onto the other side. If you've taken classes with me before, it's a little bit different than I've done in the past. So on your first movement, the left arm is going to sweep up and overhead, and then it's going to reach back towards the left heel. Engage the glutes as you press the hips forward. The right hand is still at heart center, left hand is at the heel. Inhale, sweep the right arm up and over to meet the right heel. Through this full camel, left arm sweeps up and overhead as it comes towards heart center. Engage the glutes, stay strong in the lower legs, the lower body. Inhale, right arm sweeps up and over. Pressing the hips forward, come to that tall kneeling. Right hand meets left. We're going to reverse the movement. Hands at heart center. Inhale, right arm sweeps up and over. Press the hips forward as you reach back towards your right heel. Inhale, left arm sweeps back behind. Grab hold of the left heel. Right arm sweeps up and over to heart center. Engage the glutes, be strong in the hips. Inhale, left hand meets the right. Once more each side. Inhale, left hand sweeps back behind. Press the hips forward. Right arm sweeps up and over, meets the right heel. Left arm sweeps across, hand to heart center. Strong in the glutes. Right hand sweeps up and over, come to tall kneeling. Once more, coming to the other side. Inhale, right arm sweeps back in behind you, hips press forward. Left hand sweeps back behind, grab hold of left heel. Right arm sweeps forward to heart center, strong in the hips. Left arm sweeps up and over to meet the right. Exhale, sit the hips low. Knees come nice and wide. Big toes to touch. We're just going to come into a child's pose here. Reaching the fingertips long. Forehead comes to the earth. Finding length in the low back. And just settling the breath, breathing into whatever space needs it most. Walk the hands back towards you as you come to an upright position. And then roll over the ankles so the feet are out in front of you. Soles of the feet come together. And then bringing the heels towards the inner thighs, just scooting the sit bones forward, so coming to that butterfly position. Using the leverage of the fingers laced towards one another, cupping the toes. Pulling the chest through, finding a tall spine. Then exhale, start to fold forward. Keep that flat back. Maybe a gentle press of the elbows in towards the inner thighs. Again, keeping that spine long, finding what space you can. When you feel like you've reached your depth, then you can allow the head to fall in. Two more breaths. Go ahead and rise up to that tall seat. Bring the knees in towards one another with the assist of your hands. And then begin to roll back onto your back, reaching Shavasana. Allow your legs to come wide, maybe even beyond the edges of the mat, toes splay out. Arms come big and wide as well. Just taking up a little bit more space than your typical Shavasana. More space for your hips to open up. Allowing the body to relax into the earth, fall heavy. Scanning the body from the tips of the toes, through the crown of the head, through the tips of the fingers. Taking note of any tension that you're holding on to that you do not need in this moment. Knowing that all the effort has been done. If this position is enough for you, please remain in it. If you want a little bit more opening with the hips and you have the blocks accessible, go ahead and grab hold of one block. Bring your feet flat, knees bent. Press up into a gentle bridge to give yourself some space to place the block underneath your sacrum, that triangle bone at the base of your spine. Rest it on that triangle there. And then if comfortable, allowing the legs to come to a long and straightened position, and arms rest alongside your body. This passive opening of the hips could be just what you need after today's class. It could be just what you need for the reason you came to class. Again, come into whatever resting position feels good for you in your body. And as always, please remain in these resting poses for as long as you like, as long as you need. Thank you again for practicing with me, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.